All right, KMR. Welcome back to the channel that's got the BRAP. So I just put together this beautiful black, wrinkle black and red FD3S block, but I don't think it's going in an FD. I think it's going in an RX7 or an FC race car. So we built this to handle some performance. We know it's going to the track, so we're gonna jump right into the specs and what we put into this 13B half bridge, half studded block to ensure performance and reliability. So, you know, KMR, we're all about rotaries, we're all about BRAP. We want to talk about the builds that we're putting together. And nowadays, a lot of rotary engines aren't necessarily going back into the car they originated from. And the FD3S RX7 block is one of those blocks that has a lot of strength, a lot of performance potential, and it's just a great performing engine from the driver's experience side and from the engine builder's side. This motor was built by the factory to handle boost. You've got some extra material in this dowel pin area, which does help the motor lessen the fatigue, have a little less likely chance of cracking. If you go into those earlier blocks like your Series 4 turbos, even Series 5 turbos, the castings just weren't as big. And that's a lot of the concern that comes into 20B blocks is which generation casting do you have can equate to how much power potential or boost you can run. But nowadays, when it comes to boost, when it comes to reliability, when it comes to performance, we've got aftermarket support. So even though this is a great block from the factory, we wanted to spice it up. So with the porting, like I mentioned, we went to a half bridge, pretty big half bridge. So this thing should be able to flow in the 600 to 800 horsepower range, depending on turbo size. And then to back that flow up, we ended up doing a half stud. I'm gonna grab the camera and bring it around. And basically, when we talk about our studding, we often have the option to do, the full block, which I often do. Or in this case, we did 7 of these studs that we deemed important. Obviously, most of our support over on our combustion side and supporting that dowel pin area. So as the compression happens and boost happens, as that face tries to push out, it's got more support. We also backed it up with one down low, one on our actual exhaust and intake side, just to help clamp the whole motor down. We've had great success with 5 stud setups, 7 stud setups. I think most of my personal blocks, I generally just go full stud. But for years, we've offered variations of studding depending on the block and the customer's goals. And this is one of those where we knew they wanted to make some boost. It's a good block to start with. So we can easily add 7 studs, and that will allow this block to handle, up into that 20 to 30 horsepower, 20 to 30 PSI boost range. As where if you left it just factory, I'd say most FD3S blocks, you don't want to run them past about 18 PSI. And I mean, I think industry standard, give or take a few PSIs there. But if you're looking for reliability on a stock block, you're probably keeping it under a bar. And so as you start to put more boost into these blocks, you've got to strengthen them. So I always talk about it. The studding is just a great way to go. And as I mentioned, we kind of know this block is going into not an FD3S. It's not being set up for a OEM car. So, we've left the oil filler out. There's probably going to be some type of special breather going in here, catch operation. We also opened up our oil flow a little bit on this motor, race rotor bearings, polished main bearings. We side cut the rotors. The whole rotating assembly has been balanced. It's got E&J aftermarket apex seals, 2mm 2-piece, which I really like because under extreme conditions, if you do end up getting some mild detonation, something goes terribly wrong, an injector fails, a fuel pump fails, the ECU is not quite fast enough to catch it sometimes. The E&Js actually seem to have some pretty good resilience not only to detonation, but just extreme environments. And even when you hurt them, they can come back a little bit. So just way different than what we were used to with OEM seals. And when you detonate with an OEM seal, it's just going to shatter, and all that debris destroys not only the interior of the motor, but often the turbo, and just wipes things out. So, modern components like being able to stud the block to eliminate that block fatigue, that stretching, aftermarket apex seals, so we have more resilience to detonation. We're not as likely to shatter, cause damage to other components. Side cutting the rotors. So the rotating assembly, the rotor has more clearance in its chamber. So as you up boost, as you up RPM, the rotor physically has the ability to lay over more, or in its tricoidal pattern, have a little bit of wobble. Even the shaft is flexing in the middle as you put more and more load on it. So having that rotor narrowed up, or as we like to call it, side clearancing or tip clearancing, becomes very important along with balancing. I think, in my personal opinion, I would balance and side cut rotors before I would lighten them. Lightening is like the third option in my train of thought to performance and reliability. So therefore, in this particular motor where we're looking for a lot of performance, but we're also not trying to break the bank, there was really no need to lighten the rotors. This motor's at this point still perfectly capable of high horsepower numbers, high RPM numbers, and solid reliability. So I think that's a good discussion about this block. Everything else is pretty straightforward. Run the right spark plugs. I like the NGK 11.5s or 11s. I keep things cold. I'm not sure if this block's going to be flex fuel or gasoline. Doesn't really matter from my side. We've done everything we can from the build side to ensure performance and ensure reliability. So now it's really up to the tune, the external components that get bolted on, and the owner to take good care of this little brat monster. So I think that's a wrap. We always offer custom painting. There's almost no service at this point that we're not doing between KMR and Mazda Tricks. So if you're looking for Rotary engine services, balancing, studding, porting, lapping, you name it, peripheral porting, semi-P porting, just let us know. This is what we like to do. I enjoy doing this. This is outside of driving Rotary cars on the track, drifting them, racing them. Pretty much second favorite thing to do is build Rotary engines. So that's a wrap. I'm out. I got to go back to work.